Hi everyone. Hey, welcome back. It's been a while. I haven't been on here for a while, so I've missed everybody and I hope everybody's doing good. And I'm sorry that I've not posted videos in a very long time, but thank you for coming back. So if you don't know me, my name's Renee, so hi. And then this here little girl is Miss Lily Rose. She is my newest puppy. She is 9 months old, so yeah, so she's my little girl. The last time I posted a video, I had my Jackson with me, who is my Yorkie, and I have unfortunately lost him. He passed away, so it's been a tough year. So here I am finally getting back into this, but I'm gonna put Miss Lily down, say goodbye. So hi. So here I am again. So thanks for coming back. If you guys have not been here before, then I hope that you will get some use out of this channel. I am kind of restructuring everything on this channel that I originally was going to do, and then I've been taking some time to just really reflect and, see where I want to kind of go with it. So really, I think I'm going to restructure most of it to be more about like an area of focus on ourselves, where we're able to grow and more like within ourselves, you know what I mean, rather than it be about the narcissistic abuse that I had originally started out talking about. And that is there, and we'll discuss it for sure here and there, but I don't want that to be the main focus of the channel, because then I really kind of feel like it sort of keeps us stuck, within all of that toxic stuff, and I don't want that to be what our focus is here. So many of you know that I wrote a book, so if you haven't had a chance to read my book, definitely grab a copy of that and definitely read it. That should be linked on my page, but I will double check that, and if not, I'll be sure to link it. So grab a copy of that and definitely, take the time to read that, and then that kind of will catch you up as to, where I am with this YouTube channel and what my intention is. And kind of a lot of the different struggles that I've gone through. So hopefully, I will be able to help you in your journey if you're just starting out. If you're in a narcissistic relationship or coming out of one, or if you need, to get out of one, or whatever, your situation is, there's tons of different resources in the world, and I would like to be, a guide and a help to each of you out there who are struggling with this, because that is something that I have also struggled with. So that's the reason that I wrote the book, and that is the reason for this channel. But again, the main reason for the channel is what I'm redirecting, and I want it to be more of a positive outlook so that each of us can have positivity in our day and, learn how to move forward, right? So, yeah, so thanks for stopping back on by. So I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and I actually printed out a couple of things just so I don't lose my train of thought, because if some of you know me, you'll also know that I struggle a little bit with processing in my head. Like it's in my head, but sometimes I just can't get it to come out of my mouth. So bear with me if I'm a little bit slow at times. That's the reason. It's just because I have a little bit of or maybe it's more than a little bit, but I have some brain fog that I have been trying to work through for several years now. Actually, it's been closer to, yeah, it's been close to 3 years now, which is just insane. But yeah, that narcissistic abuse, it'll do that to you. So anyhow, so hey, Mm, and grab a drink of that. So again, so my focus is more or less going to be on us. So, the people who have struggled with this, people who have been in these abusive relationships, and maybe where we are now and how we can move forward from here, or how to really just stay, focused on gratitude and like improving ourselves and improving our mental health, improving just our health in general, improving our day, just really improving our day just on a normal day. So, so many times, like, I think we think of like everything in a great big picture. Like, I know I do. Like, everything to me is just like a big, huge ball, like in my head. Like, I have to do all of this and I have to do it all right now. So, I've really been noticing that even though I've been, looking at it still this great big thing, right? And I want to fix all these certain aspects of myself and get better and be better and constantly improve on who I am as a person and the way that I live my life. But also, like, I tend to overwhelm myself, in these moments. So I've been really trying to step back, like my own self, and like really grasp how to do this, like, in like basically like smaller steps, So I've really just been looking at like each thing that I'm doing, no matter what it is. I'm trying to appreciate, even if I do just the slightest little thing that day, So, for example, prior to coming on here, I've been struggling getting back on here because, it's hard to just jump on. I'm kind of like one of those people who are just like, I just jump in, I just do it. Like, I can usually have a topic in my mind and I'll start talking about it and then I can just kind of go from there. But I can't always do that, So right now, lately, there's just been a lot on my plate and it's been hard to just like process and just, jump on and make a video super fast and just, knock it out of the park, right? So I've just not been able to do that. So rather than, um, really like focus on just the overall of it, rather than do that, I'm like, well, I'm just gonna, instead of trying to wing it, I'm gonna write some stuff down. It's okay to write it down, So small little tiny steps every day. And even like with just, it could be the simplest thing, eating food. Like, eating food is a struggle for me. It's something that I struggle with it. It's a struggle for me, like somebody else may have a struggle, to maybe not eat as much. I don't know. Like, we'll just use that as an example. I struggle the opposite way. I struggle with remembering to eat. I don't think about eating. It just does not cross my mind. It absolutely is very difficult to remember. So when something's not there to trigger me to remember something, that's hard to remember. So the smallest little thing, like each day, I've just been like, oh, I'm doing this small step, in the right direction. And it might just be eating a protein bar, grabbing a snack like at 2 p.m. rather than not eating all day, or whatever it may be. So I keep on really trying to build off of these small little steps that I'm taking, even though it might just be the most minor thing and it's like one thing that I did that day, but each day it's helping me to become a little bit better. So I've noticed I'll eat a protein bar in the morning, and a lot of times now I'm noticing that I get up in the morning and guess what? I'm hungry. So it's starting to pay off, like my little dinky steps, I maybe ate that protein bar 24 hours ago, but now I'm actually hungry. So now it's triggering my mind to eat in the morning. So I just think like that's number one. I just kind of want to talk about that, is like focus on little tiny things rather than the big, huge picture of everything. So even when we are trying to better ourselves or focus on the positive things, it's not always easy to do. I mean, we can't be positive all the time. And how can we always find positivity in everything? Well, we can't. And half the time, our brains are just busy. So a lot of times we overwhelm ourselves with this whole huge picture of like, oh my gosh, I have to be so much more positive in my life. And that's a great goal, absolutely. And we do want to be positive. And I'd much rather be positive than not positive, because the negative thinking, it just does a number on all of us, which, we'll talk about that another time, because right now, today's focus is really just being positive and just learning to be grateful and learning to do these things with our small steps that we're going to learn to take together, right? Because I think that we all can struggle with this. And if you've been through these situations in your life where they've been abusive situations, and you are learning to find out who you even are as a person, or learn how to just even breathe on your own, like, it's very challenging. So again, let me take another sip. So I want you to think about that as we're talking today. So a big thing is just, rather than taking this great big thing, bring it down to what can I do just today, just the smallest thing. So we'll start out with, let's start with like an example of gratitude. So I wrote things down, so I'm going to be looking at a paper, so my brain's kind of staying with it. So I want to talk about like like finding gratitude really in our, so rather, because I wanted to talk about the everyday gratitude, okay, which we're going to get into that more. But I think today I really want to talk about the gratitude within our life transition. So what I mean by that is, again, back to the great big picture. So, if you've left this toxic relationship, whatever it's been, and you're learning how to re-identify with who you are, figure out who you are, find out who you are, even know your first name. I mean, all of these things that it takes, that that we're trying to build on, right? We really need to find gratitude within that step that you took. So no matter where you are in the process, like for me personally, I'm 2 years in. It's been 2 years since I've been divorced. So I have actually been on my own for 2 years and 2 months as of today, as of the day that I'm making this video. It seems like a long time, right? It really does. But at times for me, it seems like minutes ago that I have been on my own, and it seems scary and overwhelming and all of these things. So a lot of times, it's hard to think about this just in a small step, because again, I'm thinking of it in a big picture, like, oh my gosh, it's been 2 years, and oh my gosh, how am I not past this? Or oh my goodness, what is going on? Like, what if this was somebody else? So rather than do that to myself, I'm just trying to take it from where I am right now and take it small steps at a time. So I want to take today to just talk about finding gratitude during our life transitions, because that is hard to do. And a lot of times our life transitions can be very difficult ones, even if you wanted to be the person, even if you were the one who made this decision, let's just say it that way. Not that you wanted to do this, but even if you did, even if you wanted to just be alone and never talk to this person again for the rest of your life, that's fine. All power to you, right? But we don't know what it's going to be like until you go through it. You know what I mean? So it is hard. Like, in a life transition, no matter the change, nobody likes change. I mean, and when you if you do really like change, well, then you're one of the few, you know. So um change is very, very difficult, and especially when it is a change that drastically affects your life. So this can be a lot of things. So whether it's, you know, you've lost a job because you quit, or because they let you go, or because you had to move states. And so then you had to move a state and then you had to find another job, you know, or you've gone through a breakup with the person that you thought you were going to marry, right? Or have kids with, or you got divorced from the person that you thought you were going to spend the rest of your life with, you know, or you lost a house that you built with your family. Um, and not that you lost it, but maybe you had to sell it. Maybe you couldn't afford it anymore, or maybe it's because your relationship didn't make it, or maybe it's because of the job change. There could be so many aspects to all of this. Maybe it's you know, it's a simple thing that you have realized that your kids have grown up and now they're going to move out of the house, and now you're an empty nester, you know, and you weren't maybe prepared for all of the feelings that come along with that, you know. Um, or you lost somebody. Maybe they passed away unexpectedly. Maybe they were very ill, you know, and you lost them. And no matter what it is, like, we don't know how we're going to react until we actually go through it. And I always say that people that have not gone through something cannot identify or recognize what it is that you're going through. It's just facts. I mean, it's just a fact. It's just like, for example, if a person has 5 kids and then another person has 0 kids, and when the person with 5 kids, their kids all grow up and they move out, and then this mom is just mortified and so sad because she has nobody left, nobody to take care of at the house. And her friend with no kids is like, well, now you have all this time for yourself, so it's about time. You should appreciate it and value it. They're on two totally different mountains, in my opinion. Like, you know, one can maybe recognize and kind of understand, oh, that probably, yeah, that probably would be tough. Like, you know, you had all these people in your house and now you're down to none, right? But they don't really understand it because they've never really, really gone through it, you know? So I say, unless you've gone through it, you really can't recognize it. So, you know, the reason that I talk about that is just because that's what I'm here for. And that's what I want to be able to spread to other people. You know, the types of things that we're going to talk about here and what we can be grateful for, and, you know, whatever it may be that we discuss on this channel. It's simply because I've gone through it. So I know what it feels like. You know, it doesn't feel good, you know, when you're married to somebody who doesn't want to be married to you. You know, that doesn't feel good. And, you know, when you have finally had to make a decision to divorce this person because of the things that are being done and said in secret, and just how toxic this is, and the things that this is leading to, and what this is doing to you as a person on the inside. And, you know, y'all know what I'm talking about if you're going through anything that you'll read about in my book. So, but if I start talking about it, then I'll get on that. So we want to keep me focused. But you know, that's important. Like, I've been through it. So that's why I want to discuss it. And so these big major life changes, you know, we don't know what we're going to do until we go through it. And a lot of times we can be very unstable with our thoughts, you know, so we want to bring ourselves back to a place of peace, calmness, serenity, um, just overall stillness. Stillness is probably the best word to describe what I'm talking about, and learning to find that within ourselves. It's not something that is on the outside, but it comes from within, and then it comes out. And it really does do that. It's crazy. We'll definitely have to talk more about that down the road. So a lot of you know that I'm huge into meditation. I really love it. It's very important. It is honestly, it's the only way that I can say that I have the peace in me that I have, because without it, I wouldn't have had this. It's super weird. So I want to talk a little bit more about the gratitude right now on the life transition. So, talking about back to, life lessons after major life changes, we need to learn let me rephrase that. We also need to learn to be grateful for the lessons, if that makes sense. Because without the lesson, we don't grow as a person. And so many times, and this is not even on my paper, just so you know, but so many times I'm so sorry, bear with me. There was something on my screen and it got in my way. So many times we stay focused on the hurt that happened. But if we really step back and we really look and view, right, like this whole thing, so many times we have seen the reality of why this happened. So whatever this was, whatever the life change, whatever the transition was, the hard thing, okay, we'll just call it the hard situation that you've gone through, whatever that hard situation was in your life, right? If you stop and really think about that, there was a time, I'll betcha, that you started to realize that, oh, this is why. This is why. And now I'm able to see that this is why this happened. Or now I'm able to see that this is why that was taken away from me. Or this is why maybe I should have done this sooner. Or thankfully I had the willpower and the confidence to do it when I did, because this is why. Because had I stayed, this is why it would have gotten worse, or whatever it may be. And this could be related to anything. It doesn't have to just be a relationship with a person. Simply whatever. It could be a job. It could be a house. It could be money. It could be, moving out of state. It could be anything, okay? Like so many things like can be related to all these things. And relationships are huge, absolutely. But those are also just people, and the people in our lives, they're either going to be there to support us and stand by our side no matter what, or we're going to see that they're not supposed to be in our life anymore. And sometimes, you know what? That doesn't even mean that they're bad, maybe. I mean, and I'm not saying that they're great, but they're just simply not supposed to be there anymore. And sometimes I don't think that we always have to have a reason for them not to be there anymore. And this could absolutely be a person that you're married to. I do not care if you're married, not married, have a spouse, no spouse. They could live with you. They don't have to. You could have dated them for 95 years. It does not matter. This applies across the board. And we need to recognize that not everybody can stay in our lives. And if they are supposed to leave, guess what? It doesn't matter what you do, what I do, what we all do, okay? It doesn't matter. When it's time for that person to be out of our life, I promise you, you won't be able to stop it. And you will be able to look back and say, that's why that happened. Because had it not happened then, it would have only been blah, 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 fill in the blank, right? So we need to be grateful for the lessons that we've learned along the way. So including myself on this, I'm terrible at writing stuff down. I just am not good at it. I know that I should be, but I'm not good at it. We need to start writing this stuff down so we can look back and reflect on it, because, finding that lesson and finding that gratitude in that lesson would be very beneficial for all of us. So I think that that's something valuable to say. But, finding gratitude in the simple fact that life didn't turn out the way you expected it to. I met with a friend of mine recently, and I was talking, and we were just talking about having kids and just different things like that. And, just how, we tend to, as parents, like, we don't really say it. We just expect that our kids are going to turn out a certain way, okay? No matter what it is. So, and if they don't turn out that way, we're just like, well, but that's just not what expected. And I think that all of us, like, just as human beings, we put so much expectation into something, no matter what it is. We put expectation into how Christmas is going to look at your house, how many presents you have under the tree. Are you making these 15 different dishes for the meal that day? And if you don't, well, like, what's everybody going to think, So, but, I started to kind of reflect on this my own self, because I was going back in, like, my childhood, right? And I'm thinking, the world put all these expectations on us as people. And not even just the world, but we can break this down into smaller bites. The church put expectations on our lives. The pastor of the church, the parents that are in the church, and putting these expectations on our lives. And what I mean by that is, like, the pastor stands up in a church and he's saying, you're to live this way and you're to do these things. I mean, I'll give you a great example. I was taught that you get married, you get married and you have a husband, and then you submit to your husband, and, everything will be great, right? Like, okay, they might not have said everything will be great, but basically, if you submit to your husband as the wife, then life should be good, right? I mean, you're submitting to your husband and you're treating him like, the king of creation, I guess, whatever. And then, you have kids and you take care of the kids because that's your role, right? I mean, you're the mom, you're the wife, that's your role. You take care of the husband and the kids. Who on this earth created that idea? And listen, I'm not here to bash on churches or anything like that, but I'm just simply saying we get that stuff in our head as kids and then as young people, and we really believe in this, So then this expectation becomes, oh my goodness, I am ultimately responsible for being the best wife on the earth and submitting to my husband and being the best mother that I can be. And you know what? Making sure my husband's above the kids and submitting to my husband. And when life doesn't go as planned, we're a little lost, because there's nobody over there at the church saying, hey, give me a holler when your husband doesn't care that you did all that. And, life still went south, So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, we have to be able to find what is right for us as human beings. This is not up to anybody else. Our lives are not up to anybody else. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's your parent. I don't care if it's a friend. I don't care who it is. Our life is ultimately, we are responsible for our own life, period. It's that simple. And that's it. And so at the end of the day, as a person, and hopefully we can find gratitude in our life to be able to look back at our own selves that we're responsible for and say, give yourself some grace, Renee, that life didn't work out quite the way you planned and quite the way everybody had intended it to, even though you're carrying all that weight around also on top of on top of everything else. But it's okay that it didn't work out that way, because you know what? It wasn't supposed to. So we need to learn to have gratitude as well. But I have two other thoughts on this, but another huge one is letting go of the past. How do I say this? With gratitude rather than resentment. And that's really hard. I don't know personally if I am resentful, but I know that I am absolutely and utterly heartbroken. And I feel kind of like I should have controlled this, and it stayed with last point. The last point loud and clear, right? Like life didn't go as planned, but everybody expected it to be this certain way. And so I've let people down because my life turned out differently. But also, I let myself down because I had the same intention as they had for my life, right? So I need to learn to let go with gratitude rather than resentment slash, sadness. I don't know if I'm resentful, but if I am, then I don't want to be. And if I'm sad, I don't want to be. I'm over it. Like, I'm tired of being sad. And I think that we'll always have sad moments, but, we don't want to be stuck in that, like sadness. So I think learning to get past that and move forward is a freaking great idea, right? So another big one, and my last thought on this, is just taking the time to thank ourselves, like not like say thank you to yourself for surviving the past. So whether it was, even if you're still there, again, surviving what you've been through, okay, like that's huge. What you've been through has been a lot, right? And, and if you leave surviving that, or even just surviving the fact that you said you're going to leave, or surviving the fact that you made it through somebody saying that they're going to leave. No matter what it is, just taking the time to reflect back and say, you know what? Thank you for being such a strong freaking person to survive this, all of this, I talk about in my book, not only did I go through a lot of years of this kind of roller coaster and up and down of this type of person that I was with, but then it was just this constant flipping battle, of like, if there was something wrong on that person's end, then it became my problem. So, but in the end, I had started a new job. Actually, let me back up. I started a new job. So it started with that. I started a new job. A few days later, all of my stuff was stolen. My identity was stolen. Everything that I had in my purse was stolen, all of it. So my entire identity was stolen. I still, to this day, I have a bunch of different wildness out there, a couple houses in another state in my name because, because my identity was stolen. So that had happened. And then a handful of days later, I should say a couple months later. So a couple months later, I ended up with COVID, and I was, pretty darn sick, right? And I still struggle with my smell. I didn't have my smell basically for about close to 3.5 years. I now have smell a little bit whatever, I'm getting totally sidetracked. But basically, I went through identity stolen, having COVID, to a big issue within my marriage, two huge topics that I talk about in my book that I won't specifically say on here. And then I basically hit rock bottom. I had a nervous breakdown and I ended up in a mental hospital, which was fantastic. We can talk about that another time. But, and then I waited another year and a half and dealt with a bunch of stuff in the meantime. And then I finally was like, I can't do this anymore. So had to sell my house that I finally had the house that I loved and, a family that I adored, right? Had to sell my house. I became an empty nester. I had two of my kids living there and they had to move and became an empty nester. And then I had to go move out on my own for the first time in my entire life. Never had I lived alone. And, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do any of that. And it was terrible. And then I end up, moving out on my own. And then I ended up, thank goodness, buying a house. So I moved again. I've done a lot within the amount of time that I have been on my own. And then I lost the only thing that I had left, which was my dog. And so it was a horrible amount of time that has passed. But I'm going to tell you what, thank you, Renee, for surviving that, because that's some amazing stuff, and I never thought that's where my life was going to turn out. What a shame, right? I never thought that. But rather than thinking what a shame, I need to think what a blessing, because I've learned so much. You think I would have been on YouTube had it not been for all this? There is no way that I would have ever even begun to think about getting on YouTube. So, and hopefully one day, I'm going to be able to talk to you, one of you that's out there listening to me right now. What a blessing that'll be. But so one of the things though that I want to think about here is just finding the gratitude for the things that did not work out in our life. So we need to learn to be thankful for the things that ended, like I said, whether it's the relationship, the job, the dreams that didn't last, the relationships that didn't last. Whether you're 30 years in or 90 years in, it really doesn't matter. It's all the darn same, But what was the clarity? So this is what I really want you to think about right now, today, tomorrow, whenever you think about this. But I want you to think about, what was the clarity that you got from the loss? When you were redirected in your life and you were no longer in what you knew, okay? You had to make this change, and this change again is big. And when you finally were able to see the vision, what was the clarity that you were able to take away from that? And I want you to write that down, and we all need to write this down because we need to remember what that clarity was. And I want us to stay focused on that clarity because, sorry, I said that 3 times, but because of the clarity that we got from the loss, that's how we start to build little things at a time with gratitude. So, we had the clarity, okay? We're able to see why this thing was taken out of our life, like it's here, now it's not here. Takes a while because you're very sad, you're distraught, you're emotional, you've just gone through a bunch of trauma, but then you start to see the reality of this, and whatever this is and whatever the clarity was, write it down. I want you to remember that. But I also, before I wrap up, I also want to just say that, some of the things that I am really finding within myself in myself that I'm most grateful for now are the things that did not work out. I didn't feel that way at the time, and I don't always feel that way now. Okay, trust me, I don't. Every day can be a struggle, but I also want every day to instead be a struggle. I want it to be filled with gratitude, and rather it be a struggle, I want it to be what I create. And you know, that's what's so important. That's why we need to hold on to the clarity that, that we found when we got out of this loss, whatever it was, and what we're grateful for now because things didn't work out. So that's the second part of what I want you to write down. So, what was the clarity that you found after your loss? And then, what are you most grateful for now? Even though at the time you wouldn't have been grateful for that when it was happening. But what are you most grateful for now that didn't work out? They kind of go hand in hand because there was a moment, or should be a moment, that you found this clarity. And you remember this, you might still be in the situation. So being in the situation doesn't mean that you still haven't found the clarity after the loss, because a lot of times you may have received the clarity. You've not gone through the loss yet, but you've received the clarity. Now it's about finding the clarity in your mind, okay? And holding on to it and realizing that's the clarity you need to get out of this situation. So whatever that may look like, it's really important, because our clarity comes to us, and we haven't always gone through that loss yet, but there's a reason for the clarity. And I'm going to tell you, we need it. And a lot of times we need it to create our life to become better. And it doesn't always mean it's going to be better tomorrow. I mean, it just doesn't, But that's why we're also learning how to be grateful for the things now that we couldn't see at the time back then that didn't work out. But we're actually so grateful for those things. And why are we so grateful for those things? So those are the things I want you to think about. Write your thoughts below if you're able to in my in this video, because I would like to kind of start doing that, and maybe we can one day do like a live like chit chat thing here on YouTube, right? So, I'm learning this as time goes on. So if you guys have any thoughts or ideas, let me know, and I will happily, start to do them as well to make it a little bit easier. But try to focus on those things, and I want you to try to just be grateful. I want you to give yourself some grace, and I want you to find just stillness within you. Because you know what? You've done amazing. You've done amazing. This life is very hard and it's very challenging. And especially when you've gone through a loss of any kind, it is so hard. So remember to keep your head up, and remember that people are thinking about you. They're praying for you. And, I want this to be, a group of people where we can come together and we can encourage one another, because it's so important. And I know I need it. And I'm certain there are many people surrounded in my world that also need it. And I would love to be able to be a tool for others and to help you all. All right, friends. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to try and stay consistent with my videos. So I hope to see you again soon. And reach out in the meantime if you need anything. All right, friends. Bye for now.